There are no male character equivalents to female characters that are created for the male gaze. Because of the heterosexually male-dominant nature of the video game industry, all characters are either influenced by a male power fantasy or influenced by the expectations of sexiness that is created by the male gaze, which is ingrained in all of us. However, there are male characters that are designed to be attractive in one way or another, and regardless, nothing's going to stop players from finding them attractive. So I wanted to analyze the difference between male power fantasy characters and ones that attempt to attract the female gaze, what tactics for doing so work, and how designers can actually make players who are attracted to men want to smooch their characters. First of all, why even discuss this? Why does sexiness and sexualization matter in video games? Well, I shouldn't need to spend time explaining how often women are objectified in video games. But the fact of the matter is, video games, in the West, are predominantly made by and for men. There are plenty of sexy women, and plenty of strong, powerful male protagonists for players to live vicariously through, but almost no male characters that are simply there to be ogled at. There are certainly many attractive male characters of all body shapes and personalities. But even with the ones that are designed to attract women, is it possible to separate how being attractive and scoring women also fulfills fantasies of masculinity? Since half of the video game players are female, and a good portion of the dudes who play also like dudes, and I'm a lady who likes looking at pretty men, it's only fair that the game developers step up to the plate and help us out. So the question is, what male characters are successfully sexy, whether intentionally designed that way or not? What about them makes them so? First of all, it's not enough for a character to just be muscly and shirtless. Quote, "This is ultimately the problem that is seen in many games that attempt to depict the main male character as an object of masculine sex. Most often, this manifests as a sort of conflation of power fantasy and sexual fantasy, resulting in muscle mass and not much personality. These characters are strong, and they have sex with lots of women, or win the girl, but it's never for the pleasure of the player, but to serve as an avatar for the player's power within the game world, as this Pace magazine article puts it in reference to God of War's Kratos. Characters like this I refer to as power fantasy characters. While it's totally reasonable to appreciate Kratos' muscles, he's really a lot more scary than anything. So we eliminate characters like Kratos from the pool. A good definition to start with for our sexy men is TV Trope's definitions of Mr. Fan Service. In order for a guy to qualify as Mr. Fan Service, just being attractive isn't enough. He needs to be shown in scenes intended as fan service for girls and certain guys. Most of the time, he has a medium-length hair, a swimmer's build, a smooth chiseled chest, washboard abs, and no shirt on. However, if he's wearing a shirt, it's usually sleeveless or left totally unbuttoned. If a character fits this description, we at least know that the developers intended this guy to be attractive. Mr. Fan Service is more common in Japanese video games. The Western equivalent would be the trope, the hunk, but I believe the hunk is also easily conflated with male power fantasy. In this issue, I asked friends and strangers on the internet what video game boys they thought were attractive and why. I then put them into a few different categories. So I asked people in my Facebook circles, and I also put out a survey, and I have results pulled from both of those sources. I also looked at lists online that ranked sexy video game men and kind of cross-referenced them. My main conclusion from this endeavor is that Nathan Drake from Uncharted is the #1 sexiest man in video games. Every article had him listed. Everyone I talked to agreed he's beautiful. On Facebook, I specifically asked people who like boys what male characters they liked, and 2 different straight dudes responded with Nathan Drake. I've never played Uncharted, but I get it. However, he's apparently not as good as Sonic the Hedgehog, for one of my survey users. Mr. Drake falls into our first category of the hunk. The hunk is kind of our generic hero type. They're usually rugged adventurers, older and more experienced than some of our other categories. They're strong, but not overly buff. They do what it takes to get the job done. Subcategory is what I'm calling good guy TM. They have the same body as a hunk, but more similar to the personality of the pretty boy, which I will cover next. They follow the high road. They might be naive, but not inexperienced. They're more lawful good than the chaotic or neutral good hunks. Then we got the pretty boys. Subcategory edgy anime boys. Pretty boys are more effeminate, lean but strong. They always believe in the best in everyone and try their best. Edgy anime boys look the same, but they're, more angsty, sarcastic, nihilistic, and all-around bad boys. They're generally teenagers or young adults, younger than the hunks. And next is, I hate that I have to say this out loud, but I had to create this category after I learned from several sources that Snake is, quote, daddy AF. So we got a few characters that make up our daddy category. Blech. Our last 2 categories aren't as important, but here we go. This one I call crunchy on the outside and soft on the inside, for the characters that are either ugly or non-human and mostly win you over with their personalities and sometimes muscles. And our last one is muscles, which needs no explanation. Next, I picked out a character from each category, either the most popular one or my favorite, and I looked at their page on TV tropes and compiled a list of every trope that contributes to their attractiveness. Most of the people I talked to about the subject agreed that personality played a key role in whether they liked a character or not. However, when I looked at the top 10 lists online, most of them didn't seem to take personality into account. For instance, most of the list included Kratos, who has no personality to speak of, and, for example, Jacob from Mass Effect, who is generally a disliked character despite being a romance option, and being relatively attractive. Everyone does agree on Nathan Drake, though. So he's our representative for the hunks. Alistair is our good guy. Cloud is representing our pretty/anime boys. Snake is, of course, the daddy representative, and Thane Krios is our crunchy boy. I know I have a BioWare bias, but hey, a girl can only play so many video games. Here are the lists I've compiled. Pause if you want to read them all. To start with, TV Tropes puts Nathan Drake down as an action survivor, grouping him with characters like Indiana Jones. That's already some good sexy points. The action survivor is described as this. He has an average to toned body, he has perma-stubble, he's light of foot rather than big and tough, he wins through cleverness and improvisation or just sheer luck, and he gets very angry when someone he cares about is threatened. Drake's trope list is going to be kind of our base litmus test for the others, as a lot of the ones on his list overlap with the other lists. Here's some of the ones of note. And this is by no means an exhaustive list of any of the characters. I likely missed out on other relevant ones. So almost all of our boys are deadpan snarkers, adorkable, the charmer, and chick magnetes. Snake and Cloud are both anti-heroes. Cloud and Alistair always save the girl. Cloud and Thane are both Mr. Fanservice, while Snake and Thane are both badass baritones. Thane and Alistair are not chick magnets, although Alistair's TV Tropes page notes that in the game, if not romanced by the player, Alistair has the option to sleep with several women, with the player doing most of the work for him. I think the main difference here is that Alistair and Thane are romance options. They were explicitly designed with female players in mind. Both are gender-locked straight romances. According to a 2010 Game Informer article, Thane especially went through great strides to be made into a character that's reliable with the ladies. The article talked about going through many different designs and asking their female co-workers for feedback. One of the original designs they spent a good amount of time on was rejected as being too scary. We asked all the women in the office what they liked in their aliens. As far as men go, like with the Asari, you make her blue and give her a perfect body and you're good to go. Women are more sophisticated than that. On the other hand, all of the other characters are player characters, they're protagonists, meaning they exist to make the male players feel good about themselves. With Drake especially, I believe the fact that women are attracted to him is simply a byproduct of making him a likable hero. For one thing, he's basically Indiana Jones, who is already basically a masculine icon. Cloud seems to be a little bit of both. He's super strong and powerful, but he also qualifies for the Mr. Fanservice, according to TV Tropes. Snake is more interesting. He's the character that I know the least about. From a franchise I know even less about, so I can't say much about his role in the game and his personality. However, he is the only one on the list who qualifies for the trope female gaze. Apparently in the game there's camera work that does things like show off his butt to the camera. Camera work like that is used a lot on women, and it's a core example of the male gaze. So flipping it and using it on male characters is an awesome way to level the playing field. It's one thing to create an attractive character, or even give him traits that code him as desirable. It's another to frame him in a way that tells the viewer you should be desiring him. Slow pans of our muscles, strategically placing the booty in view, close up on those puppy dog eyes. These are all tactics that take away agency from the character and give it to the viewer, giving the viewer permission to objectify. This is the core difference between sexy male characters and sexy female characters. The use of gamer gaze on male characters is so rare because it makes straight players uncomfortable, but it's used on basically all female characters. This brings us to our final subject. The one, the only, the lovely Sidon, the Zora Prince. I put Sidon in the hunk category because it was the closest fit, but really I think he kind of stands on his own because his personality is so different from the other characters. He may be a fish man, but he's got some good muscles, which the camera purposely shows off frequently. We get a pan over his body when he's introduced. Every close-up shows him flexing and smiling. The friendly gleam from his smile is another invitation to at least like and trust him. However, the most interesting thing about Sidon takes it a step further. He pretty much solely exists to encourage Link, and by extension the player. He tells Link that he's incredible multiple times. He defends Link from the other Zora who don't like him. He basically showers him with help, compliments, and encouragement. And although he's a competent fighter himself, he merely assists Link in getting to the divine beast instead of helping fight it. All of these things are common characteristics of female side characters that exist alongside male protagonists. Basically what I'm saying is that Sidon is the closest to being a true male objectified character, meaning he's the only one on my list that only exists as a benefit for the enjoyment of the player, not as a vehicle for men to put themselves in. Now, I'm not saying that objectifying more male characters will fix the problem with mistreated female characters, or that it's necessarily what women want to see. That's a discussion for another video. However, it is refreshing to see characters catered to me that ask nothing in return. Nathan Drake may be attractive, but you have to look past the fact that he hooks up with different women every game. It would definitely be nice to see more characters that are attractive to me without being conflated with issues of masculinity. So that's my analysis. Take away what you will and create more sexy male characters in the world. If you liked the video, give me a like. Are there any characters that you would have liked me to talk about? Leave them in the comments. Thanks for listening.